It's Monday night, and you know what that means. Jersey First TV proudly brings to you the latest edition of Real Talk. And I am New Jersey's premier and 7-time award-winning journalist. I know that's difficult for a lot of people in New Jersey to sort of wrap their heads around, but hey, folks, facts are facts. Top 100 Latino via the Latino Spirit Online magazine for 2020, 2021, and certainly now in 2022. And yes, ladies and gentlemen, coming up on Thursday, April the 13th, I'll be proud to be attending the Latino Spirit's latest event to be featuring the top Latinos in New Jersey. And of course, as if you're going to be surprised, yours truly is mentioned this year and being honored as well. Folks, also the weapon of mass disruption in Garden State media, and without a doubt, the people's choice and the people's voice. Yes, it's me, Fernando Uribe. Happy President's Day to all of you. Hope you got to enjoy this day off, relax, catch up on maybe some shows you want to binge on, Netflix, Peacock, Hulu, whatever. I hope you got to enjoy this wonderful day honoring our American presidents. And I certainly want to thank you all for tuning in from wherever and however you may be doing so here on Facebook Live via StreamYard, also on the Jersey First YouTube page, as well as on LinkedIn, and also on Instagram and Twitter. Folks, you definitely want to stick around for the end of the show because obviously a lot of people have been reaching out to me since the weekend, and I'm going to have a lot to say about Tom Moran from the Star-Ledger. It seems that he wants to take some liberties mentioning my name in his latest column, and I have a response for Tom Moran. So you definitely want to get your popcorn, and you definitely want to stick around for the end of the program, as I will have a lot to say about him and also the Star-Ledger as well. Always remember, ladies and gentlemen, make sure you check us on all of our social media platforms. Make sure you like Real Talk and Jersey First TV on Facebook. Of course, follow them on Instagram and Twitter at Jersey First. Don't forget to follow me as well at the Fernando Zone. Also subscribe to Jersey First TV on YouTube. Great traffic there, all organic, by the way. And wherever you get your podcast, whether it's on Spotify or SoundCloud, take Jersey First TV with you, whether you're going to the gym to sort of work off those annoying pounds again, as hopefully the weather's getting warmer. We might be going on vacations. I don't know, going out, whatever it is, folks, walking your dog. I'm sure you're listening to some podcast somewhere at some time. Make sure to take Jersey First with you wherever and whenever you go each and every day. I can't say enough, ladies and gentlemen, how proud I am to be on the Jersey First team. Of course, all my talented colleagues, starting with Elizabeth Nader, the host of the Nader Narrative, which you can check out new episodes of the Nader Narrative on Thursdays, as well as Bridging the Gap with millennial superstars AJ Malilo and Stephen Rumbolo collectively every Thursday as well. And folks, new episodes of Real Talk with Fernando Uribe air every Monday night live at 6 p.m. Eastern Time here, once again, on Facebook Live via StreamYard, also on the Jersey First YouTube page, also on LinkedIn and on Instagram and Twitter. Folks, again, sharing is caring. And the reason this show continues to do great traffic is because of you, my loyal viewing audience. Folks, without a doubt, hopefully you had a wonderful, wonderful holiday weekend. And of course, we're always talking about the issues. And here, of course, at 6 o'clock Eastern Time, all the haters are always coming to watch because the haters can't help themselves. They hate me, but they still love watching me. Folks, it's like emotional cutting. I don't know what to tell you. It's like the most sadomasochistic activity I can ever think of. You hate me that much, but you still watch me that much. So go figure, ladies and gentlemen. Of course, the haters tune in here every Monday Night Live on Jersey First TV. And certainly, without doubt, folks, you, my loyal viewing audience, my very intelligent audience, make the success of this show possible, of course, with the great traffic, but also it's with my outstanding guests. And it's really the exclusives that you don't see anywhere else in New Jersey media. Interesting guests, not just along a political sort of spectrum, but also along socioeconomic spectrums as well. And this week is no exception. He is the distinguished president of the New Jersey CannaBusiness Association and a fellow Rutgers alumnus. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, my good friend Edmund DeVeaux joins us here on Real Talk. Edmund, how are you?
I'm doing great, Fernando. So good to be with you again.
Well, it's great to be here. Happy President's Day to you. And certainly, again, for our audience at home, folks, if you have not checked out the New Jersey CannaBusiness Association, go to their website, New Jersey CannaBusiness Association.com. It's a really, really long word, but it's worth checking out, folks. An outstanding nonprofit organization here in the Garden State, raising awareness about cannabis, responsible cannabis usage, and surely much, much more. So let's get into it. Edmund, for our audience that maybe is not from, I know you've been on my show multiple times now. You're an outstanding guest. You're a wealth of information. Of course, you're a Rutgers alumnus, so you're always going to be intelligent. I think that's always fair to say.
That says it all.
But for our audience right now, that, and again, it's only been really approaching 3 years since the referendum passed on the ballot in New Jersey during a very tumultuous election season in 2020. New Jerseyans, by overwhelmingly, by a margin, I believe, of 67% to 23%, or 33%, I think, something like that, overwhelmingly told Trenton and legislators, hey, cannabis needs to be legalized. We need to get dispensaries off the ground. We see not just the social justice component of it, which, again, I'm always someone that, does always like to fall for those code words, but having worked in the Department of, working in corrections, probation, criminal justice for over 10 years, and certainly working into academia and journalism, I saw firsthand, Edmund, the antiquated drug laws, specifically when it came to marijuana. So I think the time came to make sure that we stop marginalizing people of color, and more so to sort of use this revenue stream that we know is better than the black market to be used for, I think, for our school systems, for funding, everything else. I think it was a long time coming. New Jerseyans got that, but there's still a lot lacking as far as I'm concerned. Where am I wrong in my entire description?
You're not wrong at all. So let's go to the replay. So then candidate Murphy, first-term governor, said legalization in the first 100 days. We had a legislature that could not get it done in 3.5 years. That when you put that out there to the general public, to the voting public, it was hard to swallow. And so the legislature punted to the public, and rightly, the voting public overwhelmingly approved in November of 2020 the referendum to legalize cannabis. Now, that being said, legislature then took months. You're now into 2021 before the legislature actually got a bill completed. Then on top of that, the bill itself took on the role of creating the Cannabis Regulatory Commission, the governing body for the cannabis industry. It's not until August of 2021 that we see regulations. Fast forward, it is now 2022 when we see the first applications rolling in, when we start seeing the first iteration of licenses being approved. So now we are just essentially, I know you said it's 3 years, but we are essentially 1 year in. When you look at the actual application of the process for applications, when you look at the applications of the protocols and the regulations, we're only 1 year in. Now, that being said, 1 year in, we've seen close to 1,000 conditional licenses issued, predominantly to minority and diversified ownership businesses. So the legislation had in place benchmarks for the awards of licenses. In a recent Assembly Committee meeting, when the CRC testified before the Assembly Oversight Committee, it's clear they surpassed the legislative benchmarks with respect to minority, women, and disabled veteran licenses being awarded. So we're in a process now of taking a look at that and saying, in some ways, we are ahead. We've done some good things, but at the same time, we still haven't launched any really new cultivation facilities. We need them. We still haven't seen one retail dispensary open up for adult use. That becomes challenging. We're still dealing with some socioeconomic issues like access to capital, which definitely affects all of those minority licenses that you've issued. We're definitely dealing with real estate issues. It's not a racist issue. It's not an issue based on race, but it's just based on the issue of education. Many municipalities have not been educated as to the benefits or the lack of challenges when it comes to letting cannabis operations stand up within their borders.
I mean, let me ask you this, because there's a lot to unpack there. And folks, if you're just joining us live right now here on Real Talk via Jersey First TV, my guest this evening is the distinguished president of the New Jersey CannaBusiness Association, and fellow Rutgers alumnus Edmund DeVeaux here joins us on Jersey First TV. Edmund, it's interesting because, you mentioned also sort of the factors that are working against this. And the first thing I think that comes to mind is even before that ballot referendum, and certainly what your organization advocates for, I think a lot of municipalities statewide saw the writing on the wall. They saw the tea leaves years ago. And there are a lot of municipalities, not just in Hudson County where I live, but I think statewide, that saw this coming a while back. And again, they're entitled to do whatever they want for their municipality, but we also saw them pass ordinances that would strictly forbid the creation of any dispensaries as a retail business in their municipality. The first thing that comes to mind, Edmund, it's not racism. I don't think it's, whatever, people that love to virtue signaling use that stuff for. I would argue that there's still a tremendous stigma that's attached to cannabis. Now, again, let me be very fair with my audience. I've never smoked marijuana. I don't care to. It's not something that's important to me. I mean, some people might claim, hey, Fernando should smoke some marijuana to lighten up a little bit, but that's probably because of his conservative political views. But that's a topic for another day. But the problem is, I think, Edmund, that there's still a serious stigma. For whatever reason, cigarettes and alcohol, you still see ads. Maybe not as much, let's say, during the Super Bowl, right? I mean, maybe decades ago, you saw cigarette ads and alcohol ads. I mean, obviously, we've known for years, not decades, both are extremely harmful substances. We're not seeing that same data with cannabis, and certainly, CBD oils, things like that. I would argue the biggest hurdle right now, especially when it comes to these communities, these ordinances in these municipalities, is that there is still a considerable stigma that's attached to cannabis. Maybe that's cultural, maybe that's generational. I can't really, again, as an academic, I can't really pinpoint the exact reason, but I venture to say that's a considerable hurdle that still needs to be overcome. Is that fair to say?
You touched on a couple of points, so I'll answer it this way. First and foremost, when it came to the opt-in, opt-out language that municipalities used, at least in the year that the Cannabis Regulatory Commission was established, the challenge there was there were no regulations at the time that the deadline to opt in and opt out came about. So municipalities had to opt in or opt out on the same day that regulations were published. So go figure. If I'm the mayor or council president, administrator of a municipality, there are no regulations to use as a benchmark. I'm opting out until I know what I'm dealing with. So the majority of municipalities in the state opted out based on that. There were no regulations in place. Couple that with the fact that you're absolutely right. There still is this stigma. People are still struggling with the we are definitely
folks, just bear with us here. Folks, bear with us. We're having some
still
with Edmund. Okay. Folks, just bear with us here. We are having some technical difficulties with Wi-Fi right now. Edmund, are you still with us?
Yes, I am.
Great. I'm sorry. Just, Verizon Fios continues to be just this garbage Wi-Fi, I think, across the state of New Jersey. So, folks, bear with us. It's technology. It's sometimes beyond our control. But, Edmund, please continue. I'm sorry.
Oh, sure thing. So where I was headed with the conversation was that you had first the challenge of opting in at the deadline. Bad deadline because there were no regulations. Then you are dealing with the stigma that is attached to cannabis use. We all grew up, and many of our leaders are now part of our generation, which were just say no. All drugs are bad drugs, even though aspirin is a drug, even though our pharmacies, our physicians were prescribing opioids at horrendous rates. So you do have that. But ultimately, what we're seeing now are municipalities are coming to terms with not only the economic benefits, but they are seeing the social benefits as well. So we do have municipalities that are opting in. We're still not at the point where we want to be, but we are seeing a slow change for the better.
And folks, again, if you're just joining us right now, Edmund DeVeaux, the distinguished president of the New Jersey CannaBusiness Association, joins us here tonight on Real Talk. Again, folks, click the share button. Sharing is caring on all of your social media platforms. Edmund, it's interesting, you bring up obviously the timeline. And one of the things that, I'm always a cynic of is government in Trenton. Trenton's never met a tax that they don't like. And they've never met a bloated government or bureaucracy that they've never liked either. And I just knew that once the CRC came into existence, we were going to start paying these people. I mean, again, these people on this commission aren't making minimum wage, folks. They're making considerable money sitting ultimately on their ass in Trenton, making good money. And this process, is really it's dragged slower than the Mets do in October. It's unbelievable to me. And what's really upsetting is we see firsthand the revenue benefit that this is. Again, it's not for me. Okay. I'll have a nice glass of wine at home to unwind, but you have to, I think, be considerably biased. And anybody with a functional IQ will understand that the data's out there, science, I know some people struggle with science, the haters that watch this show, but we know the benefits of cannabis. I have friends of mine that have struggled with the after effects of chemotherapy, that are struggling with problems such as arthritis, pain relief. And we all know, again, folks, the data's there. It's irrefutable. We know that cannabis has been a better alternative in terms of pain management than opioids and everything else that has been prescribed over the years. Again, sort of goes back to that stigma of hey, do we want people addicted on opioids, or do we want people managing their pain with cannabis? And again, and we'll get to that a little bit later. But what's really upsetting, I think, is that the CRC, I think, is not doing, in my opinion, again, you're on the inside as an organization talking to legislators. Again, I'm just a broadcast journalist, sort of looking at it from the outside. It just seems like the CRC could be doing more or putting more pressure on legislators and ultimately the Governor Murphy, to really fast forward this, to really, I'm not saying hyperspeed here in the Millennium Falcon, but my God, it's moving, in my opinion, at a snail's pace, really at a snail's pace.
So, you touched on a couple of different topics that are near and dear to our hearts for those of us here at the association. By the way, we've moved into this era now where we really are about the business of cannabis. So we are what I like to call the state's cannabis chamber of commerce, because we really are talking about what this means to the state's economy. So when we look at that, you touched on that first. So yes, when you look at the benefits that this industry, as nascent as it is, over $100 million generated to the state's coffers. And again, it's less than a year old when you really think about it. Less than a year of licenses. These are just the businesses that were a small part of the 2018, 2019, going back to 10, 12 years ago, when we first allowed the industry to come into existence as just medical. Right now, we are generating over $100 million to the state. No question about it. When we talk about some of these other benefits, but this apparent disconnect. So we're driving home the fact that there are these benefits. We still can't use the term cure, but we certainly can talk about pain management. We can talk about the mitigation of certain ailments. And so you question, well, why has it taken so long? Trust me, I get that from our membership. I get that from the cannabis community by and large. And so when I talk to the CRC, when I talk to the legislature, I ultimately come to this point. I have been given a national platform on several occasions, and most states look at us and they say, you know what? You've done it right. If for no other reason, we've avoided the boom and then the bust. And this is what we've seen with many of the states out west. I hate to pick on Oklahoma, but they are probably the prime example. They issued thousands of licenses and they all collapsed. Wow. People were walking away from sites. They were leaving their stores, just walking away from them. Why? Because there was this boom. People were getting their applications approved if they filled them out in crayon. And so they were getting a yes. And so all of a sudden, You've got 6,000 licenses out there, but no one is building a business. So we avoided, fortunately, in New Jersey, the boom and the bust.
It's interesting, and you talked about real estate before, and I think that that's also sort of the biggest problem too in New Jersey, where we're seeing overdevelopment. I mean, case in point, where I live in Hudson County, Edmund. I mean, I live literally, I can walk 2 minutes and I see Manhattan. Okay, I'm so blessed to look at that skyline every day. And also, it's a product of how expensive real estate is up here. Never mind buying a house or trying to buy a condo. I mean, just even setting up a business up here in Hudson and Bergen counties collectively are expensive. So I would argue too that the problem in real estate isn't just affecting homeowners, but I think potential dispensary owners that are looking to set up shop somewhere and they're like, wait a second, look at the taxes, property taxes in this municipality or this county where, hey, we're trying to get off the ground. It's not going to get any easier when you're building, an apparatus in municipality or in an area that is so densely populated. And of course, you would think, well, listen, that's great because it'll be business. Obviously people may be crossing the bridge from New York, whatever, at least where I live, crossing the tunnels. But it's just as expensive to not just only buy a home here, build a home from scratch, never mind,
right,
but to build a building from scratch. And I think that doesn't get discussed enough. Again, that's not something that you're at fault at or the association's at fault at. I would just say that's unfortunately the socioeconomic climate that is the Garden State, especially in densely populated areas. And I don't see that getting any relief anytime soon. It's quite tragic, in my opinion.
You raise again a great point. And yeah, thank goodness we are not part of the problem and we are attempting to be much of the solution. Mm-hmm. So here's what we're touching on here. And this has been brought to my attention. I have conveyed this to the CRC and to the legislature. We've had applicants, cannabis operator applicants, that were fortunate enough, they found property, they found sites, and they actually began to get site control either through lease or through purchase agreements, and they've been paying on these sites. And the challenge has been, I haven't gotten word of my license yet. I haven't been awarded my license yet. I haven't been told that I'm on the agenda. And so this has happened for several months. We've dealt with this. We've struggled with it. The CRC, I will say to their credit, has heard us. They came to the table with us. And look, they admit it's been hard. It's been tough. Municipalities have some responsibility to take on this because they have had businesses that have come forward. They're in charge of the zoning. All the zoning is municipal. It's not state. Yeah. They have to come up with site plans and zoning plans that actually accommodate this industry. At the end of the day, Fernando, what we're looking at and what we're talking about is normalization. We're looking at bringing an industry into an age of normalization. This means you're going to go down these major highways, these commercial corridors. You're not going to think twice about passing a manufacturing facility. You're not going to think twice about passing a dispensary. Why? Because the normalization aspect of what we have accomplished as an advocacy group, what we've accomplished as a commercial supporter, is that you're not going to have glowing lights and loud music and nonsense. These are businesses. They're going to be part of the fabric of your downtown. They should be. They're going to be part of the fabric of your business district, and they're not going to stick out like sore thumbs. They're going to be there. They're going to be part of the fabric. And this is something that we hope that municipal leaders are going to get accustomed to. Again, think about it. Cannabis has been legal in New Jersey now for 12 years, going on 13 years. The sky has not fallen. Yeah. And so what we need to understand is that we're here. It's a professional industry, and we're bringing it to this age of normalization.
And I'm glad you mentioned about the sky not falling. And I think, again, it sort of goes back to the element of there's still a stigma that exists. Case in point, down, a little south of me in Hoboken, in Hudson County, there seems to be, again, a lot of discrepancy or outrage by some members of the city council in Hoboken that are still, and again, I mean, there's some inner politics like every town when it comes to, well, who's going to get a license and who's going to benefit and all that. But it seems like there are, and especially in an area that's been as gentrified as Hoboken, that seems to still be voicing an opposition to cannabis. There's no opposition to liquor stores, right? It's like, well, we can't have a dispensary near a school. And I understand all that. But again, you go to an area like Hoboken, the Mosque Square City, and it's so densely populated, but it's not hard to find a liquor store walking through Hoboken. Okay. Never mind downtown or up and down Park Avenue or Bloomfield. I mean, you can find liquor stores, and that's okay. Again, as someone who loves a good glass of wine and a good cocktail, I'm not begrudging those businesses. But folks, be consistent in your outrage. If you're going to not have a problem with liquor stores nearby, again, you can go by a playground, and a couple blocks away, you'll see a liquor store in Hoboken, for example, and that's totally fine. But a dispensary, people are going to bitch and moan about. Again, I don't like the sort of manufactured outrage or the selective moral outrage. And again, I don't have a dog in this fight, but I just like consistency. Okay, be consistent, folks, in your outrage. Either be consistent or don't be outraged at all, and shut the what up, because it makes you look foolish when you're taking up this crusade about cannabis and marijuana. And again, it's not for me, but it doesn't mean I'm going to try my hardest to use my platform as a broadcast journalist to denounce dispensaries, to call out the New Jersey Cannabis Association and say, oh my God, what these people are doing is wrong. We should know. Again, I'm a fiscal conservative. I like to see businesses, job creation. And believe me, in this market, this is really a sector of the economy that is booming. That's what the data tells us. Folks, it's math. You can look it up. So I'm always very concerned about people, being outraged, in areas like Hoboken and other municipalities where, let's be honest, the sky hasn't fallen yet. Okay. We're not talking about making this Portland or Seattle, where we're talking about trying to legalize every narco. No one's talking about that. No one's saying that in New Jersey. We're just saying be fair about marijuana and cannabis, because for far too long, there's been an inequity in there.
Absolutely. In fact, I'm going to try not to go too far afield here, but here are the things that come to my mind. Even if you are under 21, you can enter a liquor store. If you are under 21, you can enter these smoke shops. You cannot enter a dispensary, you cannot work in a cannabis operation unless you are 21. And I do mention smoke shops because, yes, we have an issue with them. These are facilities that are selling unregulated product.
Yeah,
they're selling unregulated product. There's no carding. There's no incentive. There's no demand to card people to be 21 to enter. Gas stations are selling these products. You can be under 21 and still have access to these. So thank goodness Senator Declan O'Scanlan introduced a bill. We're working on getting co-sponsors to actually create a regulatory framework for these products that these smoke shops are selling. They're unregulated. We need to get them at a minimum. We need these places regulated. A lot of people actually circumvented the process that we helped create to create an industry where if you were formerly incarcerated, if you were one of those that were unfairly targeted for simple possession, now you have people that are circumventing this application process by creating smoke shops. I can't get behind them. I've been invited to smoke shops. People have asked me to come in and check them out, see how clean we are. But guess what? Your product is unregulated. Many of your products are in packaging that mimics food products that entice young people. Sure. We have a big issue with that. So I'm glad to see that there's legislation that has been introduced to at least take a stab at bringing this into a regulatory climate.
And also, I mean, too, I feel like not just being sort of the Cannabis Chamber of Commerce, but I feel like the New Jersey CannaBusiness Association is also being, I think, a good watchdog organization to sort of look out for these discrepancies that exist with smoke shops. Is that fair to say?
That absolutely is. When we were founded under this notion that we were about a responsible, sustainable, and diverse and profitable cannabis industry. All of these things go together. There's no reason why you have to separate responsible, sustainable, diverse, and profitable. You can still be profitable and still be responsible, and that's what we're about. So yes, that's what we do.
Edmund, I know last year there was a very successful event that the New Jersey CannaBusiness Association hosted. Any events in 2023 again, as we're really out of COVID already? We're sort of back to normal in New Jersey. Whatever normal is in New Jersey, that's sort of debatable, but we're back to normal essentially. What events can we look forward to in terms of the New Jersey CannaBusiness Association? Is it workshops? Is it almost like the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce that has sort of mixers, just like the Latino Chamber of Commerce? Can we look forward to some mixers, cocktail parties or something in 2023?
Look, we are back up and running. Last year, we went back to almost every month. We have an in-person networking event because we do represent the entire state. We try to go north of 195, south of 195.
Yeah, come up here, man. You got to come up to Hudson County, bro. Come on, we got the skyline. We got Manhattan. Come on,
absolutely.
Man.
We will absolutely do that. But in the meantime, definitely look out for April 12th. Visit our website, check out all of our normal B2B networking. But most importantly, for this, for the immediate future, April 12th, the title of the get-together is, "You've got your license, now what?" Because what we really need is not just a great number of license awards. We need these licenses to turn into business. Just because you have your license doesn't mean you have your business. So what we're looking at doing on April 12th is getting a national as well as hyper-local perspective on what you need to do to turn your license into an operating business. So April 12th, but in the meantime, again, visit our website, check out our monthly regular B2B networking. We're not about just getting together for social causes. Sure. We're getting together because we marry people up. You're looking for an attorney. You're looking for an architect. You're looking for a security company. You're looking for a financier. These are the people that come to our events. And what we're really driving home is we've got to go from culture to commerce. We get it. Cannabis culture is huge in New Jersey. I appreciate it. Much like you, Fernando, I'm not a user. And people kind of laugh at me sometimes. Well, how did you get involved? I love public policy. And this was really a huge public policy challenge for the state. I was very glad to be working with so many people on the policy aspect of this, that now we're actually looking at the industry, going from culture to commerce. That's where we have to be.
And again, I'm not just a broadcast journalist. I'm also a policy nerd. So I appreciate when you say that, because I'm also someone that has an affinity for it, because there's so much to sort of unpack with good public policy. And again, what you're doing in your capacity as president, I think goes a long way in A, creating a very healthy climate for discussion, and B, providing resources for people. Not just, again, it's not just getting together and, having a cocktail and shooting the breeze. No, it's about connecting professionals, as you mentioned, attorneys, others within the spectrum itself to collaborate. I think that's always an important thing. Before I let you go, though, Edmund, I want to thank you for your time, because you're always such a wealth of information. You're always a pleasure to talk to. I love our conversations. They're illuminating, they're educational and informative. And I think as we are continuing to learn more about cannabis, and quite frankly, the benefits of it, not just economically, but medicinally as well, your organization, I would say, is leading the way here in New Jersey in, again, creating a climate of information, education, and I think really helping to sort of, dismiss the stereotypes that, again, we still continue to have with cannabis and, recreational marijuana, CBD oils, everything else we can think of. Your organization does a great job, I think, in leading the way here in New Jersey. And I always look forward to talking with you. I'll definitely have you back on later on this spring, certainly to find out some updates about the organization and the great things you're doing. But I can't say enough about your faith in this show and coming on here. And I really appreciate you being a fan. And whenever I contact you, you never hesitate. You're always willing to come on and have great conversations. I'm grateful to you and the New Jersey CannaBusiness Association. I'll give you the last word tonight, sir.
Well, thank you so much. I think the best part about our relationship, Fernando, is that you don't make me call you Dr. Uribe. I think that's the best part of our relationship. But no, you You are absolutely a pride of the banks of the Raritan. I'm honored to always be with you. I love the scarlet line for our names there. No, everything that you do is fantastic. Thank you for having me on. Again, I look forward to continuing the education process as well as the economic process. So thank you. Anytime you need me, I'm there.
Folks, he is the distinguished president of the New Jersey CannaBusiness Association. You can check him out at New Jersey CannaBusinessAssociation.com. Make sure you like them on Facebook. And, of course, follow them on Instagram and Twitter, folks. He is Edmund DeVeaux, the distinguished president. Join us here on Real Talk. Edmund, God bless you. Again, happy President's Day. Have a happy Easter. And we'll talk to you again soon on Jersey First TV.
Looking forward to it. Thank you.
God bless you, bro. Take care. Folks, again, great episode tonight here with Edmund DeVeaux. And folks, check out the New Jersey CannaBusiness Association at their website, www.newjerseycannabusinessassociation.com. It's a really long title, but it's worth the time, folks. Make sure you like them on Facebook. And, of course, follow them on Instagram and Twitter. Great events coming up, as he mentioned, on Wednesday, April the 12th. Check out the website for more information. Folks, before I let you go, I have a little special commentary tonight. And it seems that, I'm someone that isn't thin-skinned. I'm someone that can take criticism. I'm someone that can take critique. Because when you do this, again, as a broadcast journalist, as an award-winning journalist, you have to be able to give punches as well as take them. And I don't have a problem taking them, but you know what? You have to be willing to take mine as well. But let me tell you a story tonight. So it's story time with Fernando Uribe, baby. Okay? And let me tell you a story, folks, about white privilege. Okay? Now, again, I'm as staunch a conservative as you'll ever find. And you know that I always like to sort of call out identity politics. I like to call out many on the left in New Jersey, not just in journalism, but really those on the far left in Trenton, and really the far left and all these activist organizations in New Jersey, right? So again, I'm the last one to ever invoke identity politics. But I would say that tonight, folks, I'm going to tell you a story about what is clear-cut and irrefutable, an example of white privilege, okay? And of course, when we talk about an excellent example of white privilege, let's talk about Thomas Moran, the editor-in-chief of the editorial page at the Star-Ledger. Okay? Now, notwithstanding my dislike for Tom Moran personally and professionally, I'm going to be a little objective here. So normally, folks, when I do my commentary, I like to be funny because I put out hysterical memes, and I like to be cute with my punchlines. But tonight, folks, I'm not going to do any of that. I'm going to be serious here tonight because we're talking about a serious problem in New Jersey, and that's Tom Moran. Okay? Now, Tom Moran obviously took exception, okay, last week with my interview with Amy DeVeaux, councilwoman at large in Jersey City, apparently the city he now calls home, and former chairperson of the Hudson County Democratic Organization. Now, for those of you that missed last week, by the way, great traffic last week on both episodes with New Jersey State Senator Edward Durr and certainly with Amy DeVeaux. Now, let me just be very clear about where I'm going with this, okay? And certainly, I was the first exclusive for Amy DeVeaux last week. We spoke for nearly 30 minutes on a plethora of different topics. And everybody had something to say about my interview with Amy DeVeaux. And certainly, Tom Moran decided to publish an article about my episode and certainly take some shots at me. Well, Tom, again, what you do and really what exemplifies the Star-Ledger, and again, you can sort of see in blue there on a President's Day sale, the Star-Ledger begging you to subscribe to their premium content for $1. Folks, it's not even worth $1. But again, that's a topic for another day. But Thomas Moran decided to title his column, Amy DeVeaux' Redemption Tour Goes Splat. I didn't realize that Amy DeVeaux was going on a redemption tour. She was doing press appearances with journalists that she felt comfortable with. First of all, with me, and then with David Cruz. And to his credit, because I usually like to ridicule Uncle Dave on a lot of bad journalism that he does, but I'll give him his credit. Good interview last week, David, in having Amy DeVeaux in the studio. Good interview. I mean, I don't know how many trees you killed with the amount of paperwork. It seemed like you had like a dissertation there. Great questions. Good interview. I don't have one bad thing to say about it. Okay? So I'll give you your respect there, David. But it seems that Tom Moran starts off saying, Jersey City Council member Amy DeVeaux was careful in her choice of a, quote, journalist. And he made a point to put that in quotation marks. It's sort of taking a veiled shot at me to break her long silence about her infamous hit and run crash 7 months back. Now, again, Tom, you may not like that I'm a journalist, and maybe in your eyes, I'm not a journalist, but the reality is that there are extremely reputable people in New Jersey that consider me a journalist and have honored me for my contribution to journalism. So unless you want to go on record and say that U.S. Representative Josh Gottheimer and that New Jersey State Senator Brian Stack and others are not reputable people because they've given me awards for my brand of journalism. Now, if you want to go on record and say that, I'm waiting for it. But here's a spoiler alert, folks. He won't do that. He won't dare touch that because he knows better. Okay? But these are the people that consider me a journalist. So for Tom Moran to sort of take a veiled shot at me is just poor and classless. But that's what we've come to expect about Tom Moran. But let me continue. The podcast host was Fernando Uribe, who called himself her personal friend and kicked off the show by attacking her critics as, quote, fickle men or overly hysterical women, while calling himself, quote, New Jersey's premier award-winning journalist. Well, that's true. I am New Jersey's premier award-winning journalist, okay? The awards are there. And as I just mentioned, reputable elected officials and organizations have bestowed those honors on me. Are you saying that Josh Gottheimer, Brian Stack, the Hudson County Latino Foundation are not reputable and that they are wrong to bestow these awards on me, Tom? Be careful, because we both know you don't want to go there, okay? Now, the other thing about Tom Moran that we've all come to love about Tom Moran, quite frankly, is that Tom Moran continues to get a lot of things wrong. And just from the get-go, I can tell you this. Now, in regards to who I reference as, quote, fickle men or overly hysterical women, again, maybe Tom, maybe your ears aren't working too well and maybe people hear what they want to hear. But I distinctly said last week that comment is relegated, okay, to people that disagree with me and have decided to sever friendships with me. Again, there are plenty of men in New Jersey that are very fickle. That's true. And they've decided to not continue their friendships with me because of maybe an opposition to this show or my political views. That's, again, they're grown-ass men who are fickle. Are there overly hysterical women in New Jersey? Yes. Activists, former legislators, those are overly hysterical women. That is correct. And that is clearly in reference to the people that perhaps disagree with me and have decided to sever friendships with me. Amy DeVeaux, upon getting elected in June of 2018, during a reorg meeting of the Hudson County Democratic Organization in Kearney High School, decided to say, hey, Fernando, I'm going to give you the first interview upon winning that chairwomanship. And from July 2018 to June of 2022, Amy DeVeaux was a consistent guest on my podcast, which, by the way, you can check out at blogtalkradio.com/talkingtohudson. Now, throughout the entire time, did Amy DeVeaux not hear grief from people, whether it be the HCDO or others in Jersey City, that, hey, don't go on Fernando's show. Fernando's like some conservative, whatever, blowhard or whatever you want to call me. Did that bother Amy at all? No, Amy's an adult because that's what adults do. Adults can disagree with each other and still remain friends. Again, the fickle men I referenced and the overly hysterical women in New Jersey that I referenced to, that's what it pertains to, Tom. So get your facts right. Now, as it pertains to the critics of Amy DeVeaux, well, I've also addressed them separately, okay? A lot of them are cyclists, which I don't care for, and I've been very clear on that, okay? I don't care about these cyclist organizations. I don't care about cyclists. They're the least important thing to me in sort of my daily mental, sort of regimen, all right? On my to-do list, I don't really think about cyclists or what happens to cyclists. I don't care. They're not important to me, okay? Or people that decide to stalk Amy DeVeaux' social media, or people that decide to stalk Amy DeVeaux' parking spot at City Hall on Grove Street to take veil shots at her and be cute on social media. Those are the people that I'm making fun of on different occasions. I'm not calling them overly fickle or overly hysterical women or fickle men. Get your facts right, Tom. Again, you struggle with this. Okay. Now, again, as you mentioned in your article, quote, I'm going to stick up for it because that's what friends do, he announced. And again, what's interesting, for someone that maybe doesn't like me, you decide to post a link to my show and again, give me traffic. So thank you, Tom, for doing that, when you probably shouldn't have. Okay. Now, of course, Tom goes on to say, quote, this was fake journalism. For Tom Moran to say what's fake journalism is really rich, when this is a guy who has made a living on fake journalism. But let me continue. Okay. Hudson County style. If you're in the club here, a friend of the machine, you rally to defend the powers that be. Well, let me tell you the truth, Tom. Again, I'm not part of the machine. I'm a conservative. I'm an independent. Never once have I gone asking anyone in the Hudson County Democratic Organization for a job. Okay? I've never asked Amy DeVeaux for a job. I've never asked her father, the county executive, Tom DeVeaux, for a job. Okay? Probably the closest that the HCDO has come in terms of collaborating with me is, guess what? Every October, when I host a fundraiser to benefit women for the American Cancer Society for making strides against breast cancer during Breast Cancer Awareness Month, yes, the HCDO has been kind enough to be a sponsor of my fundraising because, I'm doing stuff for women, Tom. I mean, what are you doing other than sitting at home writing absolutely abysmal columns? More on that later. Okay. But of course, he decides to sort of go about, and again, I'm not going to sort of bore you with this, but, one thing that really stood out for me, and again, and Amy addressed this last week during the interview, not just with me, but with David Cruz. 6 hours passed after the crash before the G showed up at police headquarters. So how is it malicious for people to suspect she'd be using drugs or alcohol? Why else flee the scene or wait 6 hours? I asked her own people that question, and no one had a theory. Well, again, she explained it thoroughly, not just to me, but to David Cruz. Okay? She went to work, and she's a respected teacher, Tom. Whether you like it or not, I mean, she's a respected teacher, okay, in the Jersey City Board of Education. Okay? She went outside, looked at her vehicle, contacted her fiance, Jack, who I personally know as well. So, and he's just not a firefighter, he's also an attorney. So I don't know about you, I too would call an attorney and find out what my options are at that time. And she went, the summons was issued, we all know the rest. Now, again, whether you choose to believe it or not, Tom, that's your business. Okay? I asked her the question that I needed to ask her. Now, if you think I should have grilled her more, that's up for debate. You're entitled to your opinion. But what you're not entitled to is your own facts, Tom. And you have a horrible habit of that. Okay? So, of course, he decides to end the column by saying she has agreed to a real interview with David Cruz on New Jersey Spotlight's chat box. Again, as I said, I'm a gentleman. Good for David Cruz. He asked her good questions. She answered them. People were still not happy. As you can see, the comment thread on the New Jersey Chat Box YouTube page, or even on Twitter, people are still going to bitch and moan because, again, a lot of people in Hudson County live to bitch and bitch to live. That's already expected. Okay. And of course, no doubt, you're right, she will apologize again as she did this past Tuesday. Actually, the interview was on Monday, but who's keeping count? And express regrets. Okay. What she will not do is hold herself accountable by resigning her seat. That will be up to voters in Jersey City when she faces re-election in 2025. Well, we'll see. I'm sure she'll run again and she'll continue to be a fabric in the community. But again, Tom, what bothers me about you, again, is not having your facts right. You sort of cherry pick your little moments in the article, right, about the column itself and what you want to critique about my interview. Again, Tom, it was a good interview because we also talked about other issues in Jersey City because she's also a councilwoman. I know you think that, you would do a better interview, which we all know you wouldn't, because who would want to talk to you for 30 minutes or so? Okay? You're a good writer once in a while, but to think that you're a better interviewer than me, that's living in fantasy land, and we both know that. Okay? But what's interesting, though, Tom, about you, and again, getting back to my reference about white privilege, and, you want to kill someone on your columns about having privilege. And again, I talked about it with Amy last week. We both know what it's about. Okay, about what happened that day in July of 2022. She's answered questions. She's going to continue to answer questions. Maybe not to your satisfaction, but she's been answering them. And that's all we can hope for. Okay? She's the one that has to live with it. She's not driving her vehicle for a full calendar year. She has to pay a $5,000 fine. Hey, Amy still has to answer for these things, and she's clearly taking the initiative, going and talking with journalists, okay? Just because what you think is journalism, Tom, again, you're not the end all be all about journalism, okay? The days of rolling up your sleeves and, going door to door or being a man on the street, yeah, that's still part of journalism. But vlogging, hosting a podcast, live streaming, that's journalism too, Tom. I hate to break it to you. I get it, maybe in your prehistoric, antiquated mindset about what you think is journalism. Maybe it doesn't apply to you or you don't think so. But again, Tom, you're not the end all be all. You don't set the criteria. So I am a journalist as much as you want to deny it. But what's interesting, again, as I started this segment about talking about white privilege, you're probably wondering, Fernando, why mention white privilege? You're always the guy that's denouncing white privilege. Well, let me sort of, talk about someone like Tom Moran, who is, again, being sanctimonious, who is also sort of taking this level of moral superiority, which we all know he doesn't have any. Okay? To talk about privilege when Tom Moran is the explicit poster child, okay, for white privilege. Okay? And the reason I mention it is because all it takes is a Google search, okay? All it takes is one Google search to go specifically and examine, of course, how Tom Moran was sort of the beneficiary of privilege, right? And a shout out to my good friend David Wildstein at the New Jersey Globe. Again, a real news website that gets actual traffic, not like some of these other websites like NJ.com that's begging for money, right? That's begging you to subscribe, or other news sites like, I don't know, Insider NJ, right? Political NJ, and others that don't have the traffic that David Wildstein has and don't do the in-depth reporting that David Wildstein does, right? So let's go to an interesting column here I came across in my research of Tom Moran, talking about, obviously, we all know what the incident was with Hudson County prosecutor Esther Suarez, right? And we all know that, obviously, Tom Moran was implicated in a very uncomfortable situation when it comes to contact he had and came into with the Hudson County prosecutor at an event back in 2019. And certainly in the years since then, there's really never been any clarity about it. Tom Moran will try to give you clarity, but we all know that's really biased, right? So we'll sort of talk about, again, two law enforcement officials filed reports in 2019 after Star Ledger editorial page editor Tom Moran allegedly put his hands on Hudson County prosecutor Esther Suarez during an attempt to interview her. Separate reports were filed by Executive Assistant Hudson County Prosecutor Gene Rubino and Jersey City Police Sergeant Joseph Walsh, which were outlined again in an incident report at St. Peter's University in April of 2019 between Suarez and Moran collectively. The New Jersey Globe obtained the reports as part of a request filed under the Open Public Records Act. Again, and this is important because it's sort of been swept under the rug, right? In a grainy surveillance video also obtained as part of the Open request, Moran is seen hovering over Suarez, raising his hands as if to touch her, right? And of course, Rubino mentioned in the incident report that he noticed the commotion and made his way closer to the prosecutor as she walked away from Moran, who continued to follow her. How is this appropriate? How is this appropriate, Tom? Why? Because Esther wouldn't answer your questions? And I get that you were sort of in this crusade to sort of minimize Esther Suarez, as she was at the time a possible nominee to be U.S. attorney in the state of New Jersey, right? So, of course, according to reports, Moran made physical contact with Suarez, that appears to be corroborated by a surveillance video obtained by the Jersey Police Department from Edward Henley, the Assistant Director of Campus Safety at St. Peter's University. Folks, why no outrage from the Star Ledger? See, Tom, you want accountability on other people, but did the Star Ledger ever hold you accountable? No, they sort of swept under the rug and stood by you, right? Now, again, whether that's a professional or personal choice, I don't know. But we all know the vitriol and scorn, and quite frankly, the bad look you had with that. Okay? Now, of course, we all know what ended up happening there. Suarez ultimately did not press charges against Moran. Folks, what this is, and irrefutably, and Tom Moran will tell you otherwise, but we all know that that's not the truth. If that is not an example of white privilege, then tell me what is. Because we all know if Fernando Uribe decided to approach the Hudson County prosecutor and come into contact with her the way Tom Moran did, you know where Fernando Uribe would be? He'd be in jail. There'd be charges brought up against him. Somehow Tom Moran escaped this. And somehow the awareness also escapes Tom Moran that he's the benefit of privilege, white privilege, by the way, which again, he'll never admit to or he'll deny because he loves to virtue signal. But it's interesting when he's the beneficiary of white privilege like he was to go after somebody else for maybe what's perceived as privilege. And again, I'm not saying what happened to Amy DeVeaux is a consequence of privilege. I don't know. To the best of my knowledge, when she went to court in Essex County in Superior Court, that seems to be the penalty for what that infraction and that violation was. I don't have the data in front of me in terms of jurisprudence, but if that's what the ultimate penalty was, then that's what it was. I'm in no position to call what happened to Amy DeVeaux in Essex County Superior Court a product of privilege. I can't speak for that. I won't call it that because I don't have the facts on that. Okay? But I'm not going to call it privilege. What Tom Moran benefited from overwhelmingly was privilege, white privilege. Because we both know, folks, someone with my complexion, okay, someone, again, and again, I'm sorry I have to subject you to this, probably the least photogenic photo I could find because they're all very unphotogenic. That's not the problem here, okay? But someone of my complexion does what Tom Moran did and conducted himself the way he did with Esther Suarez, my ass would be in jail. I'd be brought up on charges. Not one thing for Tom Moran. So when Tom Moran wants to talk about somebody else's privilege, boy, Tom, have some awareness. If anyone has benefited from privilege, it's been Tom Moran. So again, Tom, I appreciate the comment. I appreciate the traffic. You mentioning me. You don't like my brand of journalism? Too bad. It's not going anywhere. No one's canceling me. No one's going to silence me. Least of all, you. So if you want to keep dropping names and taking shots at my integrity and my character, again, those are words, that 3-syllable word character, that 4-syllable word integrity. I know these are words that you struggle with because it's become clear that you don't have any. And that's okay. Not everybody has it. I do. But if you want to take shots at me in your columns, that's not a problem. I can take punches, but I'm going to punch back. So if you want to keep dropping my name or going after me, that's not a problem. You want a war? You want a war? You're going to get one. Because I'm going to make it a point to go after you as much as I can. Because you know what, Tom? For far too long, Tom, you've gone unchecked. No one's had any oversight of you. Don't expect the Star Ledger folks to have oversight over Tom Moran. They're useless. They've done nothing to keep Tom Moran in check. But I'm going to keep him in check. And I'm going to go after you, Tom, as much as I have to, because you make it easy for me. You make it easy for me when you reek of hypocrisy. When I smell the stench, and next time I see you, I'm going to have to cover my nose because the stench of hypocrisy is floating through the air. You want to come down on someone else because of what you perceive as privilege? Tom, you are the beneficiary of privilege. White privilege especially. Again, Tom, keep coming after me. I have no problem coming after you. As they say, I'm part Cuban. Tú quieres jugar, yo juego. And trust me, yo puedo jugar mejor que ti. So, again, folks, first and last warning, Tom, I wouldn't come after me again. Don't be taking shots at my integrity or character. You're not going to like how it ends. Because this is pretty mild today in terms of what I can really do. I cooked you kind of medium today. Next time, I can cook you kind of medium well. You don't want that from me, Tom. Stay in your lane, and I'll stay in mine. So again, folks, thank you to everyone for tuning in, obviously, and watching the segment. Because quite frankly, folks, someone has to check Tom Moran and the privilege that Tom Moran lives with each and every day. It's pretty sad that he lacks the awareness to see it because everybody else does. And that's our show for this week. Ladies and gentlemen, once again, I want to thank the New Jersey CannaBusiness Association President Edmund DeVeaux for his time tonight. Great episode, of course. You can check it out on all of the great social media platforms that is Jersey First TV. Make sure you like Jersey First TV on Facebook. And, of course, make sure you follow it on Instagram and Twitter. Also, follow me on Instagram and Twitter at the Fernando Zone. Make sure you subscribe to Jersey First TV on YouTube. And wherever you get your podcasts, download them from SoundCloud or Spotify and take Jersey First TV with you. Folks, again, sharing is caring. And the reason this show does considerable traffic, really organic traffic, is because of you and all that you share each and every week. Can't say enough, folks, about how proud I am to be on the Jersey First team. Of course, with my incredible teammates, Elizabeth Nader, the host of the Nader Narrative on Thursday nights, hosting the Nader Narrative, of course. New episodes air every Thursday, and also Bridging the Gap with AJ Malilo and Stephen Rombolo. Folks, new episodes are available every Thursday as well on jerseyfirst.org, of course, /TV. And of course, new episodes of Real Talk with Fernando Uribe air every Monday night live here at 6 p.m. Eastern Time. Folks, again, I can't thank you enough. Enjoy the rest of your President's Day. And whatever you do, certainly make sure you share tonight's episode. And I'm sure I'm going to get a lot of great feedback on my commentary about Thomas Moran this evening, who quite frankly deserves it. And there'll be much, much more coming to Tom Moran in the weeks and months ahead. Always remember, ladies and gentlemen, if it's unbiased, unfiltered, and unafraid, it's always real talk right here with Jersey First TV, as we're always being educational, engaging, and entertaining every single week here at jerseyfirst.org/TV. I am New Jersey's premier award-winning journalist, top 100 Latino via the Latino Spirit online magazine, the weapon of mass disruption in Garden State media, and certainly the people's choice and the people's voice. Yes, it's me, folks. Fernando Uribe saying so long. Once again, I forgot to say even before, let's go Devils as we're creeping up here in the Eastern Conference. Let me take a little tea here. A little victory tea for my New Jersey Devils, creeping up in the Eastern Conference standings again as the playoffs are quickly approaching. Folks, it's Fernando Uribe saying so long. Enjoy the rest of your week. Please party responsibly, and I'll see you next week here on Jersey First TV. Take care, everyone.